This is my 16.2 techniques. So during this screencast, I'm going to be talking about three different techniques that a coach or teacher can be used to teach people at both low or high level. The three I'm going to explain are demonstration, technical instruction, and observation analysis. So the first one is demonstration, and a demonstration is when you physically show a group of people or an individual how to do a certain skill or technique. So a demonstration can be quick or long, depending on by the difficulty of a skill or technique, as you may have to keep going back to it. Also, the ability of a participant. So demonstrations for lower levels will use basic skills of only a few steps and may have to be repeated or a few times so they get it. So what you should do, you should show them fully how it should look and then break it down to a couple of steps. You can also tell them to look at different bits of your body if you repeat it. So, for example, they could look at your legs for one demonstration and then your arms the other, depending on the skill. However, demonstration at a high level will require the teacher and coach to know what they're talking about and be able to do it themselves, because it is likely to be more of a complex skill. And if you don't think that the participants are watching properly, you can ask them questions, like as to what you're doing, so get them to show you bits of it so you can ask them to see if they're concentrating well. And for younger people, it might be hard to get their attention, so demonstrations might be hard if no one's watching and listening. And also, if you show a group of people a demonstration and most of them learn from it and improve their skill, then it will give them a confidence, motivation to carry on, which then could rub off on against the rest of the group so that they will all have a positive attitude. However, if a skill demonstrated is far too complex for their skill level, it may make them lose confidence if they cannot do it. The number of participants is important, because if there is lots of people in a group, then it can be harder to keep and get their attention, because if one person isn't concentrating, then it can distract the rest of the group. If there is a small group or an individual, then demonstrations can be shown more times and can be broken down more, which will help them understand better, as they won't get distracted as easily. So for coaches at lower level for lower level classes and groups, will require only basic training, as the skills taught at grassroots levels will be more basic. However, coaches at higher to elite level groups will require a very high level of training in order to be able to perform and demonstrate the skills right, so the participants learn right first of all, and so that later on, if they carry on playing, their technique doesn't have to be corrected and they have to then relearn it again. And also, they have to have good feeding in order to be able to demonstrate it properly. So, for example, if they're doing like a smash in badminton, in order to demonstrate, they would need someone to feed the shuttle up to them, and if their feeding isn't good, then they won't be able to show them how to do a smash properly. For some sports, such as basketball, if they are trying to teach a group, like a layup, for example, it would be beneficial for the group to see what it's actually meant to look like, so that when they do it, they know that it's doing right, so you would use it first of all. For different sports, so for sports such as trampolining, which is mainly an individual sport, at an elite level, it would be harder for the coach to demonstrate unless they're highly skilled themselves. This could be a problem, as the participant then might not know what they're doing, or what they're doing if it's right, which could lead to an injury. For team sports such as rugby, because of the nature of the sport, they are less likely to need a full demonstration, because if they all know what they have to do, it's mostly a case of working as a team to try and figure out the best way that suits the team, as there are different ways to execute the technique. So the advantage, for team and an individual. So in a team, it's harder to demonstrate due to a large number of people, as it's harder to get and hold the concentration of people. However, a good thing is if few people don't get it, then the others that do can help them to understand more. For an individual, it's easier to demonstrate and it's easier to get their concentration, and also you can spend more time one-to-one with them, so they can get it better if they don't understand it the first time. However, they don't have other teammates to motivate them and keep them going. So the advantages and disadvantages of this technique. So the advantages are that it's very good for basic skills as anyone can kind of show them. It's a good way to show the correct way and also compare what their way might be, which might not be correct. So if they're doing it wrong, you can show them what they're doing and then show them the right way and get them to pick out what they think is wrong about their way. It also makes participants familiar before they actually try the skill technique themselves. Disadvantages, however, some people may feel left behind if they don't understand or pick it up as quickly as others, and it may not be beneficial with a group of mixed ability, as if the people at higher ability, like high level, have to watch and then do an easy skill, they might get bored and feel like it's not beneficial for them. However, it is good if they're like a few higher ability people in a lower ability class, so they can help out and do more demonstrations, especially if it's a big group. Also, teachers may not be able to do the skill themselves, and the technique of the skill could be shown wrong. The next one is technical instruction. And technical instruction is when you explain to a group or individual how to do a certain skill or technique without actually showing them how to do it. So to be able to explain all the points and how the end result should look like, it may take a bit of time to explain first of all. Once they get the main point, then explaining it again will be shorter. So this could take a long time to start with, and especially for an individual, if they are paying for a private lesson, then they might not want to be standing around listening all the time. For younger and lower level participants, the points need to be very short and precise, like only a few words or phrases, and have a maximum of 5 points, otherwise they will lose concentration. And you would also have to repeat this to make sure that they get it. For high level participants, you should use more technical language as you expect them to know the basics. And the way you would deliver the instructions is very important. For younger kids, the way you present them should be fun, like positive attitude, so that it gets them engaged and excited for something that may not otherwise be exciting for them to learn. Throughout the exercise, for younger and older people, the coach must get everyone's attention in the group before giving them another set of instructions. And then if one or two people don't get it, then they should be seen individually. This will hopefully then keep the positive attitude and feel like they haven't been singled out in a big group. If there is an individual and them and their coach have a good relationship, then quite often these instructions can be told in kind of a jokey way. However, they still need to know when to be serious, especially for sports such as gymnastics, which have a big risk in them. If there are lots of people in a large area, then using technical instruction may be hard due to people not being able to hear. However, they could be used with alongside gestures and demonstrations, so that if people can't hear, they should be able to see as well. The training required for the coach to give verbal instruction, the training level doesn't have to be very high, as long as they know what the teaching points are and have some knowledge in the sport and know what they're talking about, so that if the kids ask a question, then they'll be able to answer it. For the best use of technical instruction, they should be used alongside the demonstration at the start of a session or right before they start the exercise, so that they get a clear idea of what they're doing first. And again, you can always question them and get them to talk you through it after you've shown them to make sure they fully understand. As I mentioned earlier, the coach must make the delivery of the instructions so that they are clear, loud, and everyone can understand them, as well as having a positive attitude themselves. The instructions should have a maximum of 4 or 5 points and should be repeated a couple of times so that the group or individual understands it properly before trying to have a go themselves. For team sports such as football, technical instruction is very important at the start of a game and during half-time. This because the manager will probably want to talk tactics with them and how they should be playing the game to hopefully beat the opposition, especially during half-time. The manager will be looking to see what mistakes are being made or how they can improve it. This is the same for an individual sport such as badminton, as during the game, before they swap sides, the coaches can come on and discuss what they should be doing in the second half and hopefully give them some more motivation. So for teams, it's harder if there are lots of people, because it's harder to raise your voice loud enough and get everyone's attention. And if a couple of people are distracted and don't listen, then it can ruin the activity if it requires the whole team. And if one person isn't listening or doesn't understand, then normally someone else in the team will be able to explain it. For an individual, it's often they often listen better because they can't get distracted by anyone else. However, if they don't understand, there isn't anyone else apart from the coach to explain again, and sometimes the way they explain it might not be a way that the individual understands, which is why having someone else your own age or similar age will be beneficial. And there is more time to do one-to-ones though. So the advantages and disadvantages of this technique. So the advantages are that it's good when explaining basic skills, and can also be when explaining like higher level skills. And it also can be used anywhere, like there's no need for equipment and everything. And it also allows the coach to break down the skill and technique into different steps, and also gets the coach to become involved in the session more, so that the kids get a better relationship with them. However, the disadvantage are that it can be very time consuming, as you have to go through the steps one by one and have to repeat it a few times so that everyone can get it. And also, sessions could become tedious if the coach is just speaking for the whole session.